And hello everyone. Figure we'd just do a more relaxed live stream after that, because there's still loads of energy and people still want to do things. Um, Maybe it's kind of wrong of me to have. I mean, how much material have we had on today? We had a two-part hangout earlier. This is the third part of that hangout. We had my little reading of the epitaph of Caedwalla. Or Cade, is it Caedwalla? Cade, it's Cade, isn't it? A-E, Caedwalla. As well as that plebeian podcast just then. The plebeian podcast thing. I keep. I must admit, people who are listening, the plebeian podcast crew, I suppose, there is consistently fewer people nowadays than there were previously available. The only people who are really consistently available nowadays seem to be Ed and Duncan and David. David wasn't here this evening, however. It's partly my fault for being fucking ill all the time and fucking shut up. But I'm hoping the other guys kind of become available once again soon enough. And obviously, I have to distinguish the plebeian podcast from these sorts of hangouts. I mean, it's still hangouts, but one's got a name on it. So it's kind of, what's the difference? Well, those ones, they are focused, they're more specific, they involve certain people who are, of course, free to be here. Right, John is here, Duncan is here. I'm just waiting for Ed. If Ed shows up. Bro, do you even sleep? It's 10 to 11. I go to bed at like 1 or 2 every night, and I get up around 8:30, 9. So I'm lazy, mate. I fucking should be far more active, doing far more writing, doing far more videos than I currently do. So this is my way. The live streams are fucking easy. I know that, but it's just when you have the right people, these things go really well, and they're enjoyable to do, and people like them. So why the fuck not? Anyways, are you talking about the Munich shootings, mate? There are fucking 2 of them, cunts. I did my notes on Nice literally last week. I don't know. There's nothing else we can say about these sorts of attacks that hasn't already been said, and that isn't self-evident. They're terrible, barbarous, disgusting acts of evil. I mean, that is really just self-evident. And they're not going to stop. They're going to keep happening. Liberals aren't going to fucking stop them. They're not going to stop enabling, facilitating these sorts of murders and savage occurrences. They have no mechanisms in place to prevent these things from happening. The liberal establishment has no way of stopping them. When that fucking cunt President Holland says we have to live with it, it's going to be part of life. Traitorous fucking whore that he is. When he says that kind of shit, that's the actual liberal view of these sorts of matters. Women and children being fucking gunned down in broad daylight doesn't matter. Multiculturalism is the way forward for this sort of clique that exists. They are so ideologically committed, they will sacrifice the lives of children, women, and innocents, just because they have no idea what to do, even though the fucking answers are so obvious and so easy. It is easy to prevent these things, but they won't do it, because they're evil bastards. They're evil fucking bastards, and there's really, with every single attack, the right, the reactionaries, nationalists, we're all just proved right every single fucking time these things happen. And, so don't politicize them. No, we have to politicize them because these are political events. They have metapolitical angles to them. This is civilizational warfare. At the small scale, taking a long time. But it's nevertheless what it is. It's the clash of ideology, clash of civilizations. Politics can prevent these things, but it isn't, because politicians are fucking evil bastards. And I'm genuinely angry about these sorts of things. They didn't listen to men like Powell and to men like Bowden. They didn't listen, they chose not to. And this is what happens.
Do you think, I know this is kind of going a bit against what you're saying, but I think you go into a city street and you ask any young person what they think of socialism or communism, and they will approve of it and see it as an ideal. And the political elite is entirely left and desires some sort of communistic or metaphysically fair system, but they're so weak to the core that they can't even get their communist revolution when they are the proletariat and the elite. And I think, to me, that shows that they're just plainly incompetent to an extraordinary level. They're just severely impotent.
Well, the thing is, I don't even think they want communism as it's perceived. There is this kind of foggy, vague, universalistic ideology which is adored by these higher globalist echelons of our civilization. It's this, and you see it manifesting what the European Union wants to be. This kind of foggy, post-violence utopia where there are no differences between people, no dividing lines, nothing, no fissures to act upon. There are no reasons to attack anyone. It's, in my understanding, it is a fundamental miscalculation of human nature. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how humans organize themselves socially. Obviously, this is all spurred by what happened after the two most destructive wars in human history. That's a hell of a lot of fuel, which will burn which will burn in the engine, so to speak, to propel this nonsense. But it's obviously more complicated than all politicians are commies and they're all terrible. There are many different agents at play, many different forces, many different actors, many different groups vying for different things in different angles and different ways. But there are people in key positions of power who could prevent these things, and they don't. They could stop them happening, but they don't.
Well, I think there is a obvious immorality to one who there is an evil to someone who cannot muster the energy to protect their own or to give mercy when it requires danger. And I think that is certainly what the left embodies.
Yeah. Well, they're simply reacting against what they perceive as nationalism. When, fuck's sake, some of the things that German politicians have said. When leftist German politicians say that Germans being ethnically replaced in areas of their capital is a good thing, they say it's actually a good thing. When their morality tells them that the ethnic replacement of the native population in key areas of their capital cities is a good thing, it's morally preferable to the opposite. You're speaking of not a mere ideology, not a mere having an opinion, but of something pathological, something spiritual, something very dark and very evil. Satanic. It's the only word we can use really to describe it. Satanic. When these sorts of thoughts go unchecked in these people's minds, they don't hesitate for a second to think, do I really think that? Why do I think this? Why is this good? It's fucking awful to think about. It just makes me angry. It just makes me really fucking angry. And Duncan's left.
Could it be a bluff?
No, I don't think he's a bluff. I think he's totally genuine. I think he's totally honest. But there's nothing to... It's a showing of true colours. They have nothing to lose by saying these things. No one is going to stop them. How did Ed mute John? That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, Duncan's here again. But these attacks, like I said, they're going to continue. They're not going to stop. They're going to get worse as well. I'm still waiting for one to happen in England. I reckon it'll be in London.
Well, there was that rioting in Hyde Park, wasn't there?
There was that riot, but that wasn't Islamic action. That was simply a decay of. That was simply a sign of Negro animalism.
That was largely the youths.
Yeah, the vibrant, enriching youths. But yeah, there will be more of these attacks. Nothing can stop them. The only thing which will stop them is reaction, is the right, is nationalism, is people who say, nah, maybe we shouldn't have all these fucking foreigners here. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just stop it a bit. Maybe we should start caring for our own people instead of all these foreign groups who seem to contain within them a large portion of people who want to kill us. That sort of tribalism, that really just is the fact of the matter. Maybe some people listening won't really get it because they don't live in Europe. If you live in the West, you will have some sort of awareness of terrorism, right? If you live in Europe right now, I mean, I am very thankful that I'm not in France or Germany right now. I have German friends, I have French friends, and I have no idea what they're thinking. Just you can't really comprehend it. You might be dead tomorrow, but why? I'm just repeating the inevitable. I'm just towing the party line. I know that, but there's nothing to say about these events other than the obvious. Other than we fucking told you so. We told you so, and you leftists, and you didn't listen. And this is what happens. So
it's not a good "I told you so."
no.
It's
No, it's an angry and infuriated. It's screaming in rage that people won't fucking listen, and it takes the death of children being crushed by lorries and trucks to actually have them, stop for a minute and maybe have a little think, just a little one, just a little thought. Just, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this. Most of them will just carry on their way anyway.
I think
oh no, it's fine.
I think I notice in the adults in my life, they see that they believe that the system is kind of perfected, and it can just go on unaltered. Even though my parents personally are Republicans, my father was saying to me the other day, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. You don't have to do anything. It's all gonna work itself out. It's this complete blind faith in democratic capitalism.
Yeah. In the status quo, just belief in the status quo, because there's most kind of proletarian-minded people can't foresee an alternative. It's just because obviously their field of view is narrow, right? That's fine. It's not a problem. The problem is the fact that people in fucking control of our civilization, I've seen various potential excuses for why this is happening, such as they believed after the Industrial Revolution there was this idea in the intelligentsia and in the higher echelons of academia and so forth that multiculturalism and mass immigration was inevitable, that it was going to happen eventually anyway, and so to them they're just going along with what was predetermined anyway. I don't think there's much truth to that.
It's hard to kind of swim to an island in terms of the United Kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. These people have been imported. They have been brought here. They can go. Like, people have legs. They can walk to different places. So, but yeah, it's just all fucking annoying.
Well, I think the liberal mentality. It's like I see these people. I think I've even seen it in my own life. You see people who were of a liberal mindset, and then they switch. They become woke, and yet they're the most violent, totalitarian of our type. That's immediately what they jump to. And I think this there's so much pressure, and the longer the left tries to maintain their hegemony, the more pressure that's going to build up, and the more blood that didn't have to be spilled will definitely be based on their actions and their inability to change. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Vox is it Vox Day? Yeah, Vox Day he lives in Italy, and he was saying he's in a football club, and that the younger kids he hears what they say, and they want a total, violent erasure of other cultures. You know what I mean? That they've been it's a total heightened rage that's just building, that needs to be depressurized, and that could be depressurized through nationalism. It could be depressurized through a general, conservative or traditional movement. But it's being denied because the liberal mentality denies reality because it cannot deal with it.
Yeah.
I think there's a thing that Slavoj Zizek said. He said, behind every fascist revolution there's a failed communist revolution, and I was thinking behind every communist revolution there's a failed traditional, recovery. There's a trailed
Recovery
a failed reformation.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm very quiet right now. Sorry.
Are you somber?
Yeah.
Well, can I just pick up on the behind every revolution there's a something?
Yeah, sure.
Well, if we look at Magna Carta, for example, that was a list of demands put forward by the barons to the king, and then later on the king had adopted it and changed it a little bit, and then reconfigured it and published it as a sort of taking on the energy of the revolution, but in a way countering that revolution with a reaction. And then we have the English Civil War, which was a revolution of sorts, and then a restoration, and then another revolution, and a set of laws being passed which codify that revolution, but set it so it reforms to become the new status quo. And then we look at the French Revolution with the counter-revolution or the reaction of Napoleon, and trying to bring things back to a previous time, and basically a turning off of the tap, and an actual, a checking of the tumbling down revolution. And the point we're at now is that there isn't really there hasn't been a check on the sort of continuing cultural Marxism that we're facing, and these individual shootings and things don't seem to be checking it. So there might be some huge civil disobedience or some catastrophe, or there might be a rising of national parties that check it, but we've not seen that just yet.
I think we will eventually.
Adopt.
I mean, I am totally confident that Europe, as it's perceived, will be all right in the end. There is not going to be an Islamic takeover of Europe in the centuries to come. There is not going to be a total collapse of everything British, German, French, Scandinavian, etc. It's not all going to disappear. It's not going to be destroyed.
I think
it's going to take,
before that will happen.
Yeah, it's going to take significant bloodshed and horror and violence and terror.
No, but what I'm trying to say is that I don't think that is possible without destroying the Earth in the process. That type of battle to fundamentally change the spirit of Europe, I think the Earth couldn't withstand it.
Yeah, it's funny because I genuinely believe Europe is blessed by God. I genuinely believe there is something mystical about the European and his existence. And right now he's in an extraordinarily awful place. But the kind of mystical forces that are present in this part of this earth, they are kind of the bones of this world in a sense, and they cannot be destroyed just through violence. They would have to be destroyed at the manifold destruction it would take to wipe Europe away is unthinkable. It's inconceivable. It cannot happen. But, but the actions of Europeans, us, have to reflect that. Our understanding of the world has to become genuine. Has to be real. We have to understand reality. Both the reality as it stands materially, as well as the super world, as well as the invisible reality, as well as the metaphysical reality.
Well,
We
that's
have
like
to understand
what,
God. We
what-
have to understand right.
I just want to say, Adam, what you're saying essentially is that Europe is the faith, and the faith is Europe. That's what Hilaire Belloc said.
Yeah, as Tess
that-
described. Says, yeah.
Yeah.
Europe, it cannot go, but
Well, even
things are
when
gonna have to
even when
just-
the Roman Empire collapsed, it reformulated itself years later, and that each decline, basically, the decline is not a huge slope that we're constantly rolling. It's more of a stairs going down, and you have these huge sort of like dropping off. I mean, what the Marxist view of history, or the Whig view of history, is that we're ascending a ladder, and each of these things are huge sort of surges forward, or something like surges of energy up the ladder. Whereas we're seeing it more as a tumbling down the stairs, but you keep getting checked. You have a huge falling off, and utter chaos as you're tumbling down, and then you're checked by a hard force as you hit the next step as you're falling down.
Tumbling down an escalator.
Yeah, and the Jews are turning it up, aren't they? Is that what you're trying to say? No. Well, it does seem like an escalator because it's not just an immovable, fated, object that you're tumbling down. That it does move, and there are you can sort of control the descent a little bit.
Man has free will. We have agents, so we can choose one thing or
That's
another.
just an analogy, a different analogy we're using this week.
Yeah. But like I said, but there is going to be such manifold destruction. In the decades to come, there will be such awful nonsense occurring.
Do you really think that
Yeah.
the Earth could bear a battle over the Islamification of Europe?
Then I don't. One of the main reasons I don't believe there'll be any Islamification is because Islam itself, in its current state, is simply too chaotic, and it is not interiorly strong and upright. If Islam was in a truly strong position, Muslims would not be butchering little girls. They would not be massacring innocent civilians.
Would you rather see
wouldn't
no
need
world
to
than
do
an
it.
Islamic Europe?
There will not be. Islamic Europe is an oxymoron. It cannot happen. Islam is not in any position to unify.
No, I'm agreeing it, but in a different way. That it won't happen for all the reasons you say, but also if the battle were to happen, and if the other side were to be strong enough to mount an offensive, that I think the Earth would not bear the battle itself. Like that's another reason it wouldn't happen. It would not be.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, well, that's to me just inconceivable. It's not good. I can't even protest the thought of such a thing. It's just not. It's not possible. Islam cannot unify. If there is to be a Dar al-Islam, Israel has to go. Islam would have to find some balance to manage all its different parts. Africa is not the same as the Middle East. The Persians are not the same as the Turks, and so on.
Well, that's
and so
the thing. Usually in all of those situations of empire, they were led by one cultural group or another who was sort of spearheading what was going on. Let's say it was the Arabians or the Berbers or the Turks in the case of the Ottoman Empire, or the Iranians, various different groups, and other groups that would sort of take a back seat to those groups while it was going on. Yeah. And
yeah. So the Middle East is simply not unified right now, and I don't think it will become unified anytime soon.
I mean, it would be if Israel became a Jewish province of a caliphate. That might be interesting. I mean, if Jews and Arabs collaborated again, that would be quite a bit of power. But oh, you never know. I mean, I don't know what the future holds.
But I mean, just realistically, the Muslims that exist in Europe are the majority are very westernized. They like democracy. They like liberalism. There is, however, a sizable portion of this group who do see themselves as outside of Europe and who wish to dominate Europe and who wish to do these terrible things. And this faction will only grow and continue. I mean, again, this idea of France is Paris's majority young men becoming Muslim. I mean, that's when these things are confined to a particular place like that, that's when they become dangerous. When they're sparsely, populated and spread out, it's not so much a problem because some degree of assimilation takes place. And I don't really think assimilation into Western democratic liberalism is a good thing, but it doesn't then lead to women and children being murdered, if you want to be a little bit pragmatic. I'm not a secularist, but the point is that when you have these mass bodies of foreign individuals present in like the heart of France or elsewhere, that's when you see a realistic propensity for there to be genuine conflict of a very dangerous sort. I mean, we read about the attack which happened in Paris last year, and the fact that if you read, for instance, Taki's Mag, there was a very good interview with the bassist of the Eagles of Death Metal, whose show it was where this massacre and torturing went on. And he said in this interview that looking back, you could tell that it was planned, that multiple members of staff knew that was going to happen, that multiple people he saw throughout the day knew it was going to happen, that it was an organized event. And those sorts of occurrences are what's really dangerous. When you have one lone person can kill a lot of people, but when you have several people collaborating for an ideological end, there are no systems in place to prevent that. You have these anti-extremist speech laws, like what Theresa May is trying to pass, which would ban any speech, for example, which was anti-democratic. Goodbye, everyone. But this would not do anything. These people would just meet in person instead of meeting on the internet, for example. This is the problem liberalism has when trying to prevent these things. It doesn't actually try and get to the source of the problem. The fact that this theocratic, transcendent or semi-pseudo transcendental ideology of Islamic terrorism, it cannot be approached with secular tools, because secular tools do not have the means by which to actually argue it. In fact, by its essence, this sort of idea is unarguable. But liberalism cannot remove it. It has no way of approaching it. You can stop people talking about something on the internet. That doesn't mean they're not going to talk about it at all. If you look at England's prisons, Britain's prisons, for example, they're fucking full of Muslims, and Islam is the #1 religion in our prisons. Like, that's, these sorts of measures, putting people in jail, silencing people's speech, and it does nothing. It doesn't stop these things.
Well, I think that's another sign of the weakness of Islam at the moment, because although we obviously all have problems with it, it does not. I mean, Islam, if they were following it properly, would they be in jail for committing petty crimes or violent crimes either?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, Muslims do. I mean, most of the people who were involved in Rotherham, the Muslims anyway, the perpetrators. These things, people do get put in prison. It's not the case that they all just get away with it just because, right? It's a bit
No. I'm saying that I think another sign of the weakness of Islam at the moment is if they were properly following the religion, there would be far less Muslims in jail than there are. I'm not
that's
saying
a very good point. Yeah, I mean, also to speak of the weakness of these types of people. The fact is, Muslims could easily take over Europe within the next 50 years. They don't have to kill anyone. They don't have to do any of this. They don't have to keep shooting themselves in the foot like this. All
They just need to shut up.
All they have to do is shut up and have lots of children, and pretty much things will sort themselves out for them. I mean, obviously you could hypothesize other things coming into the equation, but think about that. They could just shut up, be good citizens for the time being, and then just have loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of children, retain their religion in strong communities and all these sorts of things, and build themselves enclaves, etc. But they're not doing that. Well, at least some of them are, but large numbers of them aren't doing that. So there you go. Oh dear, Richard Coudenhove Collegi, von Coudenhove Collegi. It's pretty clear our enemy is the Jew. I've gone over this so many times. I'm not going to do it again. Ed, you and I will do that live stream probably over the weekend if we can help it about the Jew.
Spiritually speaking, though, it's not far off the mark.
No, it's not. It isn't. Jewish.
Yeah, I'd say that for once, I'd say Kalergi is right.
Yeah. Yeah. The idea of Platonic Jewishness is one enemy. What is my opinion on slavery? Chattel slavery is rather distasteful, but I don't see anything inherently wrong with slavery. Indentured servitude, these sorts of things which existed in like ancient Rome and so forth. I don't see these things as being inherently evil. In fact, in a sense, it's better than being outside of society because at least one has then a place, one has a reason to exist. Being a slave is better than being an outcast. You know, there's a reason the Shudra in Vedic India are above those out of caste in the pyramid, because they might be at the bottom of the pile, but at least they have a reason to exist. At least they have some sort of reason for their being. Someone who is outside of the system, outside of caste, has no reason to live. But slavery, yeah, I believe the Atlantic slave trade, these sorts of things, they were flawed because they were totally mercantilic. They had no other dimension to them. They were totally materialistic. And also, of course, these things led to a lot of problems. Like America itself, with this racial question, is a very complex one. I'm not going to answer that. But
I think it's in ancient Greece and it's like I've read this book on Athens, and when someone became a slave in Athens, I forgot exactly what period. I think it was the 6th century or 5th century. They would be basically effectively become part of the family, and they would be there would be a ceremony that they did the same for an orphan or a new or a son having a wife.
Yeah.
I think the definition. Well, I think that slavery almost isn't an appropriate term for a lot of its ancient incarnations.
Well, to the ancients, especially in Greece and Rome, to be a slave really just meant to be in someone's debt. You were enslaved to someone if you owed them something, and therefore they could hold something over you. You owed them something like your service as a payment for them giving you service.
That's more feudalism, but there was an idea of kind of.
But you could earn your freedom. Diogenes, for example, even Homer was apparently a slave for a time.
No, I think you're thinking of Hercules.
No, I'm thinking of Homer. I read literally the other day. His name comes from a word meaning slave or servant. It was one theory for the etymology of his name.
I don't think they even necessarily looked down upon someone who was a slave, if you get what I'm saying, or someone who was adequately in their place. I think Aristotle, doesn't he say, treat your slave like children. And I think it makes sense too. I mean, like treating a tool or that you use to craft something very poorly is just ineffective and a waste. And properly cultivating something is a much better way to go about things.
Yeah. See, but yeah, just to answer, I don't see anything inherently wrong with slavery, as much as that's an edgy thing to say. But yeah, the Atlantic slave trade, chattel slavery, nah, it's not worth it. It's a waste of fucking time. If someone owes me something, if someone owes me a great debt, I don't see anything wrong with enslaving them a little bit. They can earn their freedom, and there's a bit of respect there. But I'm not going to just fuck off to some foreign country and find someone and just think, oh, come on, you come with me. If you disagree, you're going to get killed. Especially if they're black. No, thank you.
Albie has expressed his interest.
Eh?
Albie, all
No, he's not coming in. No. Oh dear. 11:30. It's not edgy if it's hierarchical. Yes, it is. Edgy, it means hierarchical. Basically, synonymous, right? Yeah, Ellerich says the idea of he says he finds the idea of someone deprived of any control over their life distasteful. Yeah, I do as well. But also, you have to consider that some people simply don't anyway. Most plebeian people, most people in really a society, they don't have any control over their lives. Really, they are simply slaves to their base impulses and to their lower natures. That's why you have a caste system in Rome, the plebeians and patricians and so forth, and why the plebeians were seen as ones without ancestors. Patricians had gods that they worshipped that were of their stock. Like royal families in Europe, pagan families, they claim descent from particular gods. The founding fathers of Anglo-Saxon England, Hengist and Horsa, they were descended from Wotan, and they were therefore royalty, basically. But plebs, serfs, what we might say proles, they don't have any sort of they don't have any lineage. Their souls, when they die, are simply recycled. They have no reference point. They have no stopping point, because their lives are simply a continuation of a kind of that kind of telluric force, not of anything transcendent. Which is why you have, again, caste system, like you saw in Rome. That isn't to say you can just treat everyone who's a plebeian or perceived as a plebeian as a prick. But place has to be understood. Order, hierarchy. These sorts of ideas are very much lacking in the contemporary world because we don't want these things. That's why we lean to egalitarianism and treating everyone the same. And that's a mistake. You shouldn't treat everyone the same. You should have an understanding for who stands where and in what fashion, and adjust your behavior accordingly.
Hello?
Hello. Did I cut out?
I don't have no. I just don't have much to
That's
to
fine.
add.
That's fine. You can make something up. You can change topic, mate. It's these sorts of live streams are just whatever. We're just having a conversation, interacting socially with people.
I could divine it. I call them the muses. I call them Calliope.
Is this why reincarnation is popular in India, where the caste system lasted for so long? No, it's more complicated than that. Reincarnation is an interesting idea, but I'm no master of these sorts of questions. I do remember reading in Evoler's Doctrine of Awakening about reincarnation, and how reincarnation was actually an idea totally absent from original Buddhism, from what's represented in the Pali Canon.
It's interesting in the Mino by Plato, they kind of reference the idea of Plato mentions that certain people believe that in the basically what is now known as the eternal return. Um, and I think he kind of offers a neutral position on that, at least in Um,
This was mentioned in one of the earlier chapters of Revolt Against the Modern World. This idea of an afterlife for everyone or reincarnation for everyone is incorrect because different castes exist not only at the physical level, in the idea of mentality or whatever, but also at the metaphysical level. Caste exists as an extension of the super world, I suppose. Every being is multidimensional. Every existence is multidimensional.
sure, but I think I don't know. Where does the arrival of free will come into the consciousness or the spiritual consciousness, I guess? Because I think the Greeks had a much more difficult time with the idea of free will. They had the idea of the fates, the weaving of the destiny, and not even really Zeus could defy it, and Apollo did to a certain extent. But if they did that, it could totally, in their view, like destroy both the divine and the worldly, if that is disturbed. So I think maybe right. That is what the type of picture develops in a world that struggles with the idea of free will.
All the Christian view is quite simple. God gave man options. We can choose one thing or another.
That's Prometheus kind of embodies that too. That Prometheus, the Titan, human beings were kind of this creature to be kind of like a failed art piece of the older gods, and Prometheus had pity and taught us how to learn and gave us reason. And like before he did that, it's kind of referenced in Hesiod, like we were these dumb, childlike animals that would like run off cliffs and like not know how to feed themselves, and then Prometheus gave us reason. And but I don't know if they meant free will though. I don't know if
No, that's not free. That's being confined to a lower state. But you can choose to smear your face with food or throw it at someone. if you want to play with that analogy. But with Christianity, God has laid out all the options for us.
Well, I'm sure but there's a lot of interesting comparisons with Prometheus bound by Aeschylus and Christ, because they're both nailed to well Prometheus isn't, he's crucified
Prometheus is chained, isn't he? He's chained to a rock or bound to the rock. He isn't nailed.
No, he is nailed by
Is he?
at least in Aeschylus. He's nailed to a stone wall, I think, or like a cliff face by the ocean.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But I think there might be another.
Well, I don't think you can really compare that with the crucifixion. You're dealing with different things there.
No, sure, but he is it's kind of the inversion of Christ, right? Because Christ well,
Christ didn't teach man how to think. That is a property already inherent in man by his very nature as man. There was never a state to the Christian mind where man did not have free will. Man has always had free will. Because there was never man before God. Again, it's because in Christianity and monotheism you're dealing with the idea of Godhead as opposed to the kind of pagan idea of gods in the world with man, gods among many instead of God as Brahma. And so obviously we're dealing with something a little different here. I'm trying to think, is there a pagan equivalent to Brahma?
Well, you expand?
Brahma, Godhead, being.
No, oh yeah, okay. You know, there is the Dionysian kind. Well, I think it isn't. Does Godhead extend into like trance, or is that an aspect of it, a musical trance? Because I think
No,
that
no,
is.
no. It has nothing to do with it. No, Godhead is a philosophical idea. Well, I suppose it's a metaphysical
Well, the
idea.
only reason I bring that up is because of what I understand about Sikhism and how they chant in order to get closer to God, and they do reference the idea of Godhead in that, but they obviously
Yeah,
could be
yeah. Because when one chants, and as well as when one prays, it's a form of meditation, and you shed the kind of ego and the self and the human and return to the very being, which is a part of God is within each of us because we are a reflection of being. Um, that's why, like in Buddhism, you have to chant and go through the 7 layers of the self and all that sort of thing. At least in Nichiren Buddhism,
But
because you ascend through the levels of the self through the ego. You navigate through that and get to the true eye of the heart.
I'm trying to think in paganism. I know, like you can have in the Aeneid when Aeneas goes to speak with that oracle. I can't remember the name of the character, and she kind of has Apollo working through her.
But Apollo is one aspect of creation. He is not creation embodied, is he?
Well, like I guess Gaia and Kronos in in Hellenistic paganism is that.
But they're kind of apart though. They're gods among many, aren't they?
Oh well,
So
not really, because
no.
because well because Kronos is killed. Well, there's a lot of different explanations. There's not really a unified Hellenistic.
Well, could
uh,
it be said
but
that
oh, sorry.
Zeus could meet Kronos?
Yes, but there
Yeah.
like there's parts of what's her name? Uh, is it Hephaestus or Aphrodite? Like Aphrodite is Kronos's disembodied penis. I know that sounds wild, but and like the blood of Kronos into Gaia, Earth, is what like gave birth to the Titans and the I think there's a lot of different explanations, but there is
But well, no. The thing is, let's just get this.
and there's also the idea of like Onychus, which is like the river that
Yeah, but
surrounds the earth.
these are all things in the world. They are not outside of the world or the world incarnate. There is not this idea of being, like Heideggerian being, the first cause why there is something rather than nothing. That is the Christian God. You don't find this in paganism, as far as I'm aware. There probably are. You can get to these sorts of you can understand Godhead without the word Godhead. You can get to a being from a philosophical point of view, but it isn't something which is religiously or mystically realized in these sort of pagan systems.
I haven't.
I would say
I
that's
know.
the distinction between the two.
I feel like I've read that there is I forgot the name of the book. It was a book on the pre-Socratics, and there's a very long introduction that goes through the transition between religious studies are kind of in paganism to philosophy, and I think it's hard to determine because obviously a lot of what the Greeks did is lost, but there is a period of time. I forgot his name, Phrenakis or something. Like I think did kind of develop a sort of metaphysical interpretation of paganism. I think there were. I don't know if we have them.
There is metaphysics in paganism, but with paganism, all these forces, entities are personified, and they exist in the world amid many other beings, amid many other forces. There is not this idea of God in the monotheistic sense, that's in my opinion the key distinction between the two. you have aspects of God, and God or aspects of being and creation, and there is the all, if you want to use Hermetic language. But you don't have this notion of the all in paganism. You have figures like the All Father and particular aspects of creation like Apollo, like we've said. But never, you don't have this. You can never really visualize this idea of a kind of mystical firmament. At least you, in the sense that you can with Christianity or any monotheism. But you do have pagan elements to Christianity. Christ is a pagan figure. God
Or the
as
Trinity
man.
to a certain extent, maybe.
Yeah, the Trinity, exactly.
But
You have these sorts of elements. Go on.
I might I have to study more, but I sort of resist your point to a certain extent. I think it's a simplification. I think to at least Hellenistic paganism to see to the gods aren't like I think it's more metaphorical in a lot of extents, and I think that
Yeah, I know
the
these things.
real meaning behind it is revealed in other writers.
Yeah. I know there is a poetry to how these things were conveyed and understood. I know these are mystical forces. They aren't so much entities. I'm using that word from a utilitarian point of view. They are mystical forces which only got understood through invocation and prayer. I know that. But from a metaphysical point of view, there is no equivalent, it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, people in the comments as well, to Godhead in these sorts of pagan systems. Whilst with monotheism and Hinduism, I mean, Hinduism isn't paganism, it's polytheism. But you have this perennial idea of Godhead, which is called Brahma, which is called God, which is called Yahweh, which is called Allah. And this is something which you don't see in these pagan traditions. At least it isn't an idea which is articulated in the same sense as Zeus is articulated, or Odin. You know? At least going from what I've read. If someone can prove me wrong, please do. I'm really, really interested for that to be so. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to get another cup of tea. A third one.
Yes.
So this is the part where you're supposed to entertain the audience while Adam's getting tea. Buffalo, are you getting tea in my house?
You lads have been rather quiet, I seem to assume. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone on Skype who would want to join. Maybe James, but I'm not sure if he's in it. Not sure if he's in a live streamy mood. Have a look. I'll leave my Skype open for a little bit. Righty then. Right, fuck it. Let's have some questions in the chat, if that'd be alright. Get the ball rolling, even if it's by myself. John and Ed, you're free to leave if you want. Otherwise, what do you like? I don't fucking care. Yeah, as Quid says, all religious traditions end up at the absolute unconditioned/unconditioned. Pretty much. That's why people pray, chant, etc. To delve down and through the self, through the ego, through the physical form. To, Derek Crumble Snatch, scroll up for your question. Dude, scrolling is fucking horrible on these things. Thoughts on Breivik? He was a silly bastard who didn't kill the right people. Same with all these other murderers. Was that it? It's a bit of a shit question, man. I'm not very excited for that. It was a meme question anyway.
Yeah. By the way, I just wanted to quickly say sorry about the silence there. The reason that was happening is just he needed to run out and get a charger for his cell phone.
It's not a problem. I don't mind. It's not a bit. If this was the Plebeian podcast and there was a silence, I would have kicked you by now. I would have kicked both of you by now.
Well, then you would have just had more silence.
I would have been able to speak instead of waiting for other people. I can take the reins, so to speak. When is Adam's talk of the Extremists Club? Fucking Tuesday. So there you go. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 days. Yeah, that's
going to be your first chance to see Adam Wallace live. He signs autographs, I hear.
I'm not fucking signing any fucking autographs or stupid bullshit. No. If anyone asks me to fucking sign an autograph, I'm gonna punch you in the face. Seriously. Oh, Derek says, did the monotheism of the Abrahamic religions derive from Zoroastrianism? The Israelites only became monotheistic after the exiles returned. That's an interesting question. I wouldn't be able to answer it. Ed, do you reckon you could have a stab at that one?
Oh God, I've got no idea. I don't know enough about Jewish theological history to understand it.
We'll go with it. That's a fucking good question, though. I'll need to look into that. The monotheism of the Abrahamic religions derived from Zoroastrianism. Perhaps, I don't know much about Zoroastrianism.
Isn't Zoroastrianism more recent than Ottonism, though?
I don't know. I feel like a retard. No. I would say monotheism, especially in the Christian context, is very rational, is very logical. You must have an understanding of being of the absolute. Ontologically, like, it just makes sense. If you wish to understand the universe and existence and being, there must be this understanding of the intelligibility of the world and of the philosophical absolute of being. There has to be a cornerstone somewhere. So monotheism to me just seems a very natural conclusion. But in a way, so does a pagan understanding of aspects of creation and possibilities emergent in the natural world as we can understand them. Like, that's why I agree with David. There doesn't need to be conflict between pagans and Christians, especially in like right-wing spheres, as there so often is. It's totally unnecessary. You're looking at the same thing with different lenses. Ultimately, you're looking at the absolute refracted in different ways, manifest through different languages. There doesn't need to be, law pagans and Christ cucks. And if you're European, you're European, and you're both as fucked as each other. So you should stop acting like silly little girls and just, kiss and make up. Alexander said, no autographs. You have to buy a $15 West Coast Reactionaries T-shirt. I don't want to sell WCR T-shirts, but I want to wear one now. if we ever sort something out, I'll give them away because I just want a West Coast. Just a signal.
Where would it be? Would it just be would it be white on black text or black on white?
Oh shit! It have to be black on white in line with the logo, and I don't know how it would really be. Maybe a little logo just on the left side of the chest, maybe.
I think along the top side of the pocket might be nice.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Something nice and clean and simple, good quality kind of cotton, but just we'll do that eventually.
Or maybe along the back, big along the back, like a big, really stylized WCRX along on the hoodie, on the back of a hoodie or something.
A hoodie, maybe, yeah. Rapture Remember says, look for Glubb's books online. As far as I know, John Glubb didn't publish any books. He published essays and articles, mate. Shit, he might have published a book or two. But I don't think that they're available via online. You can read the essays, Search for Survival and the Fate of Empires, other way around, via the links on West Coast Reactionaries and on my website. They're really short, like PDFs. They're like 15 pages each, if that. Shit, that's an exaggeration. I think the Fate of Empires is like 20 odd pages, and the Fate of Empire, the Search for Survival is about 15. So they're not long. It's not like reading a 400-page book at all. That's horrible to read on the screen, I know. But they're easy to read. Just on a PDF. But I don't. I think the only way place you'd be able to find actual books published by Glubb is like in England. In England.
Also, by the way, I just wanted. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying. Let me finish that. It's quite important. In England, or any of the places where Glubb's work was read. I know he did write about the Middle East, so you'd have to like get them from like charity shops and shit like that in Britain and elsewhere. Like, to my knowledge, if you can find somewhere online to buy Glubb stuff, then cool. But I don't think it's going to be very easy. Do you have an Iron March account? No. No.
I just wanted to quickly say on Glubb, I think I can know that he's written at least one book because I believe I read it, if I'm not mistaken. I think Soldiers of Fortune, it was called, or something like that. It was about slaves of the Ottoman Empire.
Interesting. Yeah, he did a lot of stuff on Arabian history and
he was he was fluent in Arabic, and he read a lot of Arabic texts and as well as English texts on the history of the region, and so he could read the Ottoman script as well, if I'm not mistaken. And
yeah, he was a very intelligent and cultured man. I do have mine and Duncan's reading of his essay and analysis that is still there. It's just in the background. I need to fucking get that uploaded. I'm sorry, guys. These things just come on and off, but I will be finishing out with that series soon. But it is on my computer. I just need to edit it and stop being lazy. But yeah, Glubb stuff is interesting. He was a very intelligent and cultured man, and I'm glad his stuff is still with us, and I'm glad to be able to share it with people because it's not very well known, and I think it should be. Recommend some good books. I've done that so many times on these bloody Hangouts. Like I have like a shelf of books, and books underneath my monitors. I always use the hold up books and shit like that. I've done it so many times. Oh good heavens! I'm not going to do it. No, I'll say authors obviously that everyone already knows. I like Evola, Spengler, Junger, Weininger, Carl Jung actually. I'll honor Eric Orwell's recommendation. Obviously the Bible, Nietzsche, very important. Guénon, Schuon, other perennialists like Kumaraswamy. Who else could we say? More contemporary authors like Marcus Willinger. If you want to read about identitarianism, history, especially Anglo history, Norman Cantor. Just there's nothing I can really recommend which I haven't recommended before or isn't really self-evident. So yeah, I've mentioned books. I always do that. Show people my book. In a way, I sound pretentious. Look how cultured as I am. I read things you don't, pleb. But yeah, I would. That's the stuff I recommend. And as always, with Evola, read Ganon's Crisis of the Modern World first, before you read Revolt Against the Modern World. And when you read Evola, read him chronologically. Revolt, then Men of the Ruins, then Ride the Tiger, unless you have plenty of spare time and you can fill in the gaps philosophically, and you want to read Ride the Tiger first because that's the easier book to read because of the prose. Evola's Revolt is heavy in places. Men Amid the Ruins is quite short. Half the fucking book is an introductory essay by H.T. Hansen, which I have copied onto West Coast Reactionaries should you wish to read it. No, I haven't claimed it as my own. I've accredited credit to where it's obviously due to H.T. Hansen, Dr. H.T. Hansen, and Inner Traditions. That was last year actually. I did that. 40,000 words long. That's like half the book. But obviously, other things people should read, like the Western canon, the Odyssey, the Iliad. Read Shakespeare. Read the writing of your civilization, and that which forms your identity and who you are fundamentally. What do I think of Dominique Werner? I've seen that name before, but I'm not sure who it is. I don't know. Yeah, Aristocles Invictus uploads a load of like PDF readings on his channel, which some people like. Personally, I don't like the robot voice reading, all these things. You don't quite get the same. That's just my taste. But Aristocles Invictus has a load of stuff on his YouTube channel, which is interesting and important. Gaelic Neo-Reactionary, another great channel for things to listen to and/or watch. Have I read The Culture of Critique? But no, I'm aware of it though. Kevin MacDonald, yeah, he's right about most things. But his approach, in my opinion, is too materialistic. However, it doesn't get to the core of the issue. Evola's views on the Jewish question, I think, were pretty much dead on. Which are in relation, obviously, to Otto Weininger's views, who was a Jew himself, who fucking killed himself because he was Jewish. Also, Evola's critique of Weininger is important. Also, Evola's notes on the Third Reich and fascism viewed from the right, so they're interesting and important. Ego and is owned by Max Stirner. I'm averse to Stirner. He's too individualistic. It's like with Nietzsche. There's a lot of good stuff there ultimately, but it's incomplete. It's like one portion of an aristocratic view, kind of, filtered through a modern lens. You don't really get the entire picture. And as, of course, with Nietzsche, Evola corrected Nietzsche in his Ride the Tiger and elsewhere, as he also did with Stirner. These modern kind of existentialists, they're all good, and you should understand them and read them and be familiar with them. Even the leftists, like Sartre. Not de Beauvoir, she's a woman, but like Sartre and so on. But they are all incomplete, really. If they don't mention the absolute, then there's something found wanting. Do you want to test your Tuesday speech? Nah. I've rambled to myself a little bit about it, but I'm just gonna fucking wing it when I do it. That's the only way I can do it. I have to respond to the atmosphere of the room, to the people there, to the tone of the environment, because that's what I'm playing with. That's what I have to react to, and a speech like this, it's going to be a narration in a way. I'm going to try and assume a Boundinian mantle. We'll see how fucking well I do that. But, it's interplay with the audience and yourself. You give a bit to them, they give a bit to you. And the only way I can do that properly is by understanding what's going on in the room at the time. I can't just write a speech and then read it. That would be inorganic, and it would be forced, and it would be unnatural. And I might as well just fucking write an essay then, eh? And there's no reason to do that. It's a speech. I'm supposed to be speaking, and there's supposed to be the voice and the kind of drama of the personality, not just the bland written essay which exposes certain facts from an objective point of view, sterilely, with the gloves on, It's a speech, it's not the same thing. So I'm going to just approach it how I'm going to approach it, how I am at the time. So, yeah, we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine. It will be fine. Luke Dodd is back. Based NA lads. I've had what the fuck's say, wasn't it? Ben, I think, comment on my videos. I know he watches some of the shit I do. Implicit. I'm an implicit member of Based NA lads. Okay. If I was French, would I join Action Français? I'm not aware. Are they like the French National Action? No, I wouldn't join any physical movement because of my disability. It would be improper. That isn't my domain. I can exist in the periphery and have some sort of spoken and written influence upon people, but I wouldn't march. That is totally... I almost want to say perverse. It's wrong. It's corrupt. I won't do it. For the same reason, I cannot join the military. I cannot participate in these sorts of physical affairs. It's why I was very hesitant to do this speech, and it took David literally months of asking me for me to actually say yeah. Aside from the cost of it all aside and shit like that, but just because it doesn't feel... I'm not comfortable with it. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to just get over with and treat it as an alchemical exercise ultimately. But I'm not going to do that with marching, and because the purpose is different, the spirit of it is different. I cannot be a physical fighter, so that's just the way it is. I'm not going to force things and pretend things are not the way they are. I'm not a leftist. And I'm not going to treat myself like I would anyone else,
Imagine you being one of those guys giving a speech in the rain to one of those protests.
I would probably
With
give
a
a
megaphone.
speech.
Yeah, I know, you'd give a damn good one, that's what I was thinking.
But, no, I wouldn't do it. I am taller than Woz, just so people know. I'm taller than I'm like 6 foot, 5'11", 6 foot.
Pelek can confirm or deny my manlet status on later investigation. When he returns to the house, he's out buying a phone charger.
Truepill says about Stirner, yes, he is incomplete, but he's dismantling the materialist humanists, and Nietzsche stole it. I think Nietzsche stole it. Yeah, it's like saying Evola stole Ganon's ideas. No, they're approaching the same thing, but just from different angles. Same with Nietzsche and Stoner in many ways. Same with Nietzsche and Evola in certain respects, or even Bowden and Nietzsche. Bowden was more an orator than anything else, but he was also a philosopher to an extent. He openly professed his um, allegiance to Nietzsche, I suppose. But you approach truth in different ways depending on how you see it. I don't think you can steal ideas per se. Intellectual property is a funny one. You approach truth, and we agree with each other a lot on these live streams, even if it comes about through argumentation and debate. But that doesn't mean we're stealing each other's ideas. Would I ever debate Owen Jones on TV? No, I wouldn't even. I wouldn't give Owen Jones the respect due to even look him in the eye. I wouldn't even do that, and I wouldn't go on television. Even though I suppose technically what I'm doing right now is similar, I wouldn't accept an interview by the BBC or anyone like that. Firstly, because I know they would just spin what I was saying and have some silly agenda. Right? That's just the BBC for you. It would be a waste of time, and I don't give a fuck about exposure.
So in other words, you don't want to sell Adam Wallace to the normies. Something or other is going on with Adam. I'm not sure what it is. Hello?
Shit, I just cut out again, didn't I? Yeah, I was saying about interviews. I wouldn't do a television interview, not only because I don't want exposure, I don't care about exposure, but also I just know the BBC would misconstrue what I had to say, try and paint me in a stupid light, all this sort of shit. I just can't be fucked with leftists being retarded like that. It's just not worth the fucking time. I would maybe do a written interview, but only if I understood totally the context within which my words were being taken and presented. But it's not likely to happen, and that's fine. That's fine. That's fine by me. I had that guy associated with Breitbart message me about an interview. That's gone stale. He's not bothered with that. He wanted to ask me about the alt-right. Maybe it was my video where I kind of said the alt-right's changed a bit. That made him change his desires. Maybe various other things. I don't know. Right. Yeah, Bowden's books are interesting. Bowden was such a modernist. It was a kind of modernism which I appreciate though. Like Nobody's TM. James fucking hates me for this, but he might listen to this. But it's because I can see a rejection of the bourgeois. I can see a rejection of the kind of mundane materialism of modernity. Yeah, I know it isn't enough. I know it isn't quite the whole package. I'm aware of that, but I can handle these things in the appropriate manner. I like to hope anyway. Bowden's films were interesting. Venus Flytrap. Have you ever watched that, Ed?
I think I watched the opening of it.
John, yeah. It's an interesting film. I watched it all the way through. Bowden wasn't supposed to be an actor, but the film itself is interesting. Some of the ideas that were conveyed, in my opinion, it was just a way for Bowden to give a narration in a kind of roundabout way, with a few props, and with a few women like thrown into the mix. It was just kind of um, a roundabout way of giving a speech about why leftism is silly. But I enjoyed it. I found it was kind of interesting.
I need to watch it all the way through.
Yeah, there are parts where I kind of cringed a bit because the low budget nature of the film kind of obscures some of the potential meaning behind certain scenes, and they just come across as awkward.
Does he mention it in another speech or something like that, or?
No.
I think he mentions.
He mentions himself doing films and the speeches, right? But I don't think he's ever spoken about himself and the film at length.
I think there might be a section in. Have you heard his thing on the Turner Prize?
No.
There's a thing where he's talking about the Turner Prize, and I think he talks about the film a little bit. I don't know if I can find it.
Right, yeah.
Sorry.
But yeah, it's good stuff. Again, like with Nietzsche, like these sorts of things, you should understand them and you should know them, because they're all if it's a step away from kind of liberal materialism and bourgeois values, there's probably a lesson to be learned, even if that lesson is it's not the whole package. One should understand these things.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find the
That's
thing
fine.
for you.
No worries. No rush.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Maud.
I'll put it in the chat.
Character he played in in the Venus flytrap. There's like a GIF someone made of the scene where he pulls the katana out of his sheath about to kill this woman. I remember seeing like green text and shit of you know, when Mummy takes away your Nietzsche books and you unsheath the katana, you bow on achievement. That's fucking. When Mummy confiscates your esoteric literature. Someone needs to do that. Someone needs to make that. What do you think of the futurism movement in Italy? It's quite interesting. Cater Endless, he is very much into that kind of thing. I'd advise you go to his channel and listen to him and support him. Also, buy his book. I keep telling everyone to buy his book, Grave. You can just search on any web search engine, Cactus Rain Publishing and Grave, and that's his book. Buy it. But yeah, the futurism in Italy was interesting, especially Dadaism, which Evola was involved in. I'm disappointed that all of Evola's paintings, they aren't really accessible via the internet. A few of them are kind of high res and not like thumbnails, but most of them are just fucking thumbnails. If you go into like Google Images or Yandex or anything like that. But you do get a sense for what they were trying to convey. And Evola's mention of Zara as well as Maratini in his 71 interview on French television was interesting. And how he disagreed with Zara about future and what they were trying to do in Dadaism. He felt they became too chauvinistic and too crass and just trying to offend people and shock people just for its own sake, whereas Evola wanted more than that.
Who is there any keeper of the Evola archives or something like that? Is there someone who possesses all of his works
There
or a
must
good
be.
catalog?
I think there is an actual. I think there is a Julius Evola Foundation or something like that in Italy.
Yeah, an Evola Society.
Yeah, I think there is such a thing that they perhaps have his paintings, or maybe they're in private collections, or I'm not sure. PK Arc, Luciana isn't actually a girl. Luciana is a man. Just like 6 months ago, it was Luke Dodd or Dodds. Now he's Luciana. It's fucking weird. Just shit posters for you. British shit posters, mate. Weird people.
Yeah, they've all got the soul of a trap. Virtual androgyny, what can I say?
Yeah, girls can't shit post, it's true. Girls can't bounce.
Girls can trad post though.
Girls cannot trad post.
Quote unquote girls. They always turn
Oh
out to be.
no. No, that feel no
Won't even touch that.
traditional trap waifu. You know what I'm saying, guys?
How traditional.
Talking Philippine.
Yeah.
I
Feminine
wanted-
penises, you know what I'm saying, guys? It's not gay, it's feminine.
It's not gay, it's magic.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that
Yeah, you saw a pic of a girl on Pole with a Revolt hardcover. Yeah, I saw that. That originated on Tumblr. On Tumblr, there's a small kind of traditionalist community, and they all like to kind of circle jerk over how much they like to ride the tiger. I came a little well known in that community. Some fucking national socialist girl said basically, yeah, riding the tiger is about denying the Jews, which is the most fucking stupid shit I've ever read. But it wasn't just that. It was like denying the lies the Jew-controlled media have spread to white minds. This sort of that sort of thing, conflating all that with Evola, and I had to smack a bitch and do a bit of keyboard fighting, and correct that dumb bitch. It's got to be done. Someone's got to do it.
Jeez, you are severe.
Yeah.
Just get
But,
a second degree.
Yeah, you have a lot of these kind of people, nationalists who believe Evola was a nationalist, even though Evola would just kind of be confused by a lot of these people and say, yeah, you need to shut up, basically. Maybe even me. Who knows?
You don't know until you try it.
No, but the fact
Is that girl the one who helped you translate the Evola thing?
No. The Italian woman who's helping me translate that interview, she's yet to fucking do this last little bit for me. I have emailed her, but she's disappeared again. Yeah, no, she's not involved in any of this.
She a trad?
No, is she a trad? Yeah, she's an Italian fascist. She's involved in the far right in Italy, as far as I know.
Deep trad.
She speaks French, Italian, as well as English. I mean, it's pretty based. But she's actually a traditional woman. She's not some fucking nationalist teenager who doesn't like hikes and who wants to be rebellious and edgy. Adam, do you secretly wish Evola was your granddad? No, because he was Italian, I'm English. There's a world of difference between the two worlds. A world of difference between the two worlds, yeah, who would have thought. But there's no reason to wish those sorts of things. Evola has had his influence upon me as it is. Whether he would, if he was a father figure or otherwise, spiritually he has become that in a sense. So I bet she has a dick regarding this Italian girl. No. Not every kind of apparently traditional girl is a fucking tranny. Oh, fuck. But yeah, I'm still waiting for her to fucking translate this last part of that Evola interview. I help her with translating it a little bit, correct her bad English, and then edit it.
Just
forth.
use Google Translate.
No, mate, it doesn't. Google Translate doesn't work for words like anthropocentric and telluric and other bits and pieces. Is Baron Trump our future? No, not for me. The Trump's is interesting. I watched earlier today Eric Trump's inaugural speech before about his father. I also watched yesterday Trump Jr.'s speech. And I have to say, there seems to be the kind of a dynasty in the making. Not of a higher type, of course, of the mercantile type, or not mercantile, but of the temporal type. The Trumps are Vaishyas, they are not Brahmins.
Can I give you some insight? I won't say who. I'm in a group and apparently someone with a well-known man in the movement with with the initials GJ said that he was talking to someone who worked on the Trump campaign, and they do want Eric to try to run for president 2 cycles from now.
That's interesting, and it wouldn't surprise me because
Yeah.
there seems to be that you are, I think, seeing something quite interesting happen, and it does depend upon how well Donald is as president. If the Don is a good president and America mends many of its problems, obviously it cannot fix the fundamental ones, such as being democratic. But if it mends some of its lesser problems, race relations, the economy, foreign relations, all these silly wars and all that sort of thing. If if Donald Trump sorts these sorts of things out, I just read that in the chat as I was saying that, then I think you would see an actual shot of one of his sons perhaps taking upon himself the mantle of president as well. Without the trouble, though, is there is a strong anti-government sentiment in the United States. Having suddenly this dynasty appear, it would, I think, rub against that in a way. The idea that you have this country founded against the idea of kings. Suddenly you have this kind of hereditary presidential thing going on. That's just like antithetical to the founding essence of America. So I don't know how well that would actually go down with people. I think there would definitely be strong resistance against the idea. I don't think it would be very successful.
We have had multiple presidents who then their sons became president later on.
Yeah, but it wasn't successive.
No, I don't think it has
Outside,
been.
I think that is something also to consider.
But I think ironically, the most, with the exception of some intellectual anarchists and some more left libertarians, I think the most anti-government threads in America are the most supportive of the Trump family.
Really?
And see him as a reformer. So I wonder if the populist resistance has been total. That would be against some sort of successive, Don to Eric would has been swallowed up by the populism of Trump.
Yeah, I'm open to that possibility, but it is something which is kind of it's something perhaps which will be needed to navigate properly. By the way, on my screen, my camera is frozen. So is that the same for you guys?
Not for me.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, because on my screen, I'm looking very stern. There you go.
Your internet has been pretty good so far.
I'm glad of that. I'm glad of that. Adams, True Pill says, Adam, nationalists may prepare the groundwork for a new order of your liking, no? Yeah, perhaps. Like I've said many times, nationalism, fascism, these things are preferable to democracy. They are preferable to liberal kind of socialism, that sort of thing. They are a step in the right direction. They aren't enough, in my opinion, but they are preferable. In my opinion, again, the United States of America can never become a traditional society, just due to the very fabric of the society itself. It would have to go radical change over a course of centuries for it to actually entertain the possibility of, within it, somehow emerging the ingredients required for a traditional order. With Europe, it's a bit more straightforward because we've been traditional civilizations. We've been medieval civilizations. We can re-encounter those sorts of systems and those sorts of attitudes because we've lived through them once. America can't because it's never had them ever.
I think it could emerge if there is a kind of a fragmentation of the United States.
Yeah, that's what I'd have to say. If there's a fragmentation in the United States and you see a kind of almost a reenactment of the early Middle Ages in a sense, in a way, in like a modern configuration, if you see a reenactment of that sort of geopolitical arena, then maybe that could spawn something that would run parallel. But we're a while away from that. So I don't think Trump is going to be some sort of Roman emperor. No, of course not. But he's better than the alternative. He's better than Hillary Clinton. So there you go.
Well, we right wing now. We right wing now.
Yeah, we right wing now. Yeah, basically. And that's fair enough. I'm not. For me, I'm. It's not that I'm easily pleased, but I'm aware of the fact that these sorts of changes, they cannot just be as black and white as material modern socially democratic society today. Oh no, we got a right person in charge. It's a holy imperium. Tomorrow it's no. I'm much more. I can make compromises if it's not so much temporary. If it is temporary, of course, and I believe politics is a temporary state of affairs ultimately. Most of the time, anyway. It was awkward hearing Trump say LGBTQ. It was, yeah. I listened to that. I couldn't actually fucking listen to the rest after he said that. It felt just. He's playing the game. He is not ultra conservative. Fair enough, right? That's fine. He's not gonna lie and pretend to be someone who he isn't. Overmuch, anyway. But yeah, it was awkward hearing him kind of say that out loud. Like, instead of saying lesbian, gay, bisexual, he said, in fact, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer. Like, fuck off. What do you think of Dune? It's something which has been mentioned many times. I'm yet to read it.
Yeah, a lot of people bring it up to me.
Yeah. Many people have read. James, for example, mentioned it many times in articles. To me.
Spice. That's all I know about it.
Yeah, I haven't read it. I need to. Do you guys like the guys at TRS and Fashion Nation and so on, or are they too childish? No, I like those guys. I accept, like, a large proportion of people who know me are aware of the right stuff, and there's overlap between people who give a shit about what I have to spew and people who frequent those communities and so forth. That's fine.
I think Manifest Destiny is a really good podcast on the right stuff, and is much more kind of tightly concerned than the Daily Show and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the Fatherland is also good. All that stuff is great. But in my opinion, they do get a bit too memey, which is why I don't really go on about those sorts of things.
Also, if you just so happen to tune into some of the first, 2 or 3 episodes of the Fash Britannia podcast, you may or may not be able to hear a familiar voice.
Yeah, I mean, you were there. That's how we contacted, isn't it, mate? You were involved in that, and you mentioned me, and you sent me a message on YouTube.
Well, I thought it would be good to get you in on the podcast,
I'm gonna go back to that message and see when it was. And then after that, didn't we start talking on Skype?
Yeah, it was something along those lines, basically.
Yeah. Have a look. I'm just fucking curious now. Back to my sent messages, which go back fucking ages. I still have all these messages of these weird people sending me like thousands of worded essays about the Jewish question. Oh, you don't seem to know about the Jewish question, like twats.
Listen, buddy, I'm a veteran of the JQ.
Oh, how fucking depressing is this shit? Craig Marshall, who fucking hates me now for some reason. I can see his messages to me when he was on the Plebeian podcast. Oh, it's fucking
haters.
Oh, I don't know.
Haters.
It's not. He decided one day that he strongly disliked me. I don't know why. It was something to do. What was it that I've been told?
Your shirt.
No. It was something to do with I use big words to make myself sound more intelligent than I am. If I fucking gave a shit about sounding clever, I wouldn't swear as much. I don't swear in front of people like David. That's just because of good manners. But otherwise, I don't give a shit. Ed, I can't find your message.
It's probably because I sent it to you, I think, via YouTube.
Yeah, it was. I am looking through here. Maybe I've just. Oh yeah, 8 months ago. 8 months ago.
No, don't read
Yeah,
it.
it was on
That's
episode
embarrassing.
6. On episode 6. Yeah.
I don't. The last fighting Tommy says Culture Conf is a good podcast.
Yeah,
I think it's
Aristophanes on there. Yeah.
I think it's okay, but I listened to it a couple times and like people were like eating on it. Like you could hear them like it was not very. Maybe I'm sure it has changed from now, but like there was stuff that I just couldn't.
Depends how good was how good was the food? Was it worth it? I think you should get they should get Adam Wollaston there for some basic esoteric commentary.
No.
I think that would be a good decision.
Aristophanes asked me before, but I said no. It's a German thing. They can do their own thing. I'm too. I don't know. I wouldn't feel comfortable. If Fashka Britannia came back amazed, asks, "Would you start?" No. It's led by a
Oh, it's
woman.
gone.
Yeah.
What
But
happened?
no,
I didn't even know they
it's headed
stopped
by a
it.
woman.
And she's not even British, right?
Yeah, she's not. No. Sorry. Yeah, and yeah, that one show about talk shit about me for being a dumb pacifist. That was on Manifest Destiny. I corrected them in the comments. There was this again assumption that I was like an NRX tier pacifist, that I didn't want any action, you know. But even their understanding of neo-reactionary pacifism is a little skewed. It's easy to say, oh, you guys just want to debate the pinhead, the theory atop the pinhead. You don't want to do anything constructive. That isn't quite true. It's not the whole picture. And they assumed that I was like that, and that all I wanted to do is just be an armchair intellectual, which is bullshit.
Well, Stephen Hawking is armchair intellectual, and he's very successful.
Well, it's not about success. Success doesn't mean shit. It's about, but at the point,
If he was so smart, he'd be able to walk. I'm just saying.
For fuck's sake, it's terrible.
He's an atheist comedy guy, isn't he?
No, he's just a typical modern scientist trapped in his own intellectual bubble. Same problem with most of them. They just don't. They're very confined to their own vantage point, and that's a mistake. Really, those sorts of people, they should shut up about politics and culture. They don't get it. They seem to misunderstand. They believe everyone is irrational like they are. That's obviously a mistake.
I think Stephen Hawking is not even really that respected in his own field. I think he's more of a media creation.
Really?
If I'm not wrong.
I don't know. But yeah, TRS stuff is all good. But it's a little different to what we do here. I tend to keep the memes at a minimum because I anticipate that people will come to me and not know or find these things, and I do find them sometimes overused and a bit. Like you have poll is for poll is where poll belongs. Taking image board culture outside of that space is sometimes, most of the time, inappropriate. TRS crowd, they've managed it to a degree because everything they've done has really been centered around that community. But then you do encounter difficulties with newcomers.
But also, like, the Merchant Minute or their production, I think legitimizes a lot of the fun they have.
Yeah,
on here. We don't have sound effects.
The fun doesn't need to be legitimized. It's fucking great as it is, but those things only attract the audience which is already aware of these things. When you start using that certain language, and we do it a bit because we're kind of part of that community as well, but when you start using really niche language, you do tend to lose people. Especially, you say a sentence, you say the word swipple or dindu. Plenty of people have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. And especially
I think there is a certain power to that vocabulary, though.
There is, yeah, totally, I agree. I've gone over this many times. Humor is an extraordinarily powerful tool, but you cannot say words and have half the people fucking listening to you not have an understanding of what you're fucking talking about. Like, that's very important. I know for a fact that plenty of the people who listen to me are not teenagers or in their mid-20s, and people who won't be familiar with Chan culture and that sort of thing. David Parry, mid-50s, educated. He is an educator himself. He works at the BBC. Sorts of colleagues who he has and who know me and so on and so forth. I can't be exporting culture to them which they have no fucking clue about. And it just wouldn't be. I wouldn't do it anyway because it's just like I can be.
I think we're looking for the word alienation.
Yeah, exactly. I can be a bit crass and a bit rough and a bit sweary. That's fine. But people still understand that. But if I start using all these extra terms, there's no reason for me to do it. I don't need to do it. I have no use for those sorts of things. I also do tackle. My approach is slightly less racial, at least in that sense. My approach is less American as well, less Americanized, and that's a whole package. Good heavens!
You're also not a manlet. Oh wait, we're not supposed to use the chin terminology.
Man, it's fine.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, Claude Bowles is 46. You know, there are other people I know who I have plenty of 20-year-olds who listen to me and know me, but then I do have people who are in their 40s and 50s who I know, like. So it would just be impractical for me to start memeing everywhere. I don't need to do it. We have our own memes anyway in our little social sphere here.
Esoteric abo.
Esoteric abo. You know, we have our little things which have emerged, and that's fine.
Well, I do think there is a balance that must be kind of struck between the our own kind of vocabulary and not alienating an audience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there has to be a balance between. Go on.
Oh, sorry. I think it's just good for it's a good feedback in the real kind of scientific sense. I mean, like the word cuck, implicit, all these things we can see the actual effect of our movement, through these feedbacks, through these words, and I think it's a really essential aspect that kind of lets us articulate and find a more a better direction.
Yeah, like language is very important. Like the word cuck and how far that's kind of spread to the point where now it's kind of overused. Fucking tea. Fuck. It's terrible. Like fragments of tea leaf. But yeah, the word cuck and how cuck-conservative blew up, and the effect it had, and also what it conveys and what it means as well is very important and very interesting. But then you have explainers. You had that thing sort of you had articles explaining what it meant to people, and you can't do that with every single word and every single phrase and every single meme. It's like these things evolve organically inside of a culture, and really that's where they belong, in that environment.
I think the echo meme too.
Oh yeah, that's funny. And how the fucking media was
really
that,
cool.
and how so much they misunderstood it. It was so funny. How internet neo-Nazis use this to target Jews, like, oh fuck, just the hilarity of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, but there you go.
I see the Munich shooter was identified as Sam Hyde.
Wasn't it Samuel Heidberg in Germany? Yeah. I saw a Russia Today thing talking about that.
It's funny. It's finally come into my personal life because I know Sam personally, and a lot of my friends know that I did stuff with him, but haven't really watched his stuff. And the other day, when there was that shooting, when there was the Nice, sorry, what am I talking about? The Nice terrorist attack, someone texted me like, "Why are people saying on Twitter that Sam did it? Like, don't you know him? Did he really do it?" Like, so it's actually entered my my personal life. This meme.
uh, like, we spoke about this the other day, didn't we? With that other attack. Oh, it's funny.
The picture that everyone uses, I believe I took, where he's pointing the gun in his mouth. Like I was there with him like that day, and I think I took that picture. It was either me or James.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's actually not a gun. It was like a training communist like this guy got this like Chinese like training gun, and it just shoots BBs, but it's like an actual real.
Look through, yeah.
Well, it's like a real like I forgot what type of gun it is. It's like a real gun, but then the barrel is adjusted, and then they added a thing so it could shoot BBs.
Hmm.
It's a modified real gun. That's how I should put it.
Well. Okay. Well, wow. It's like 20 to. It's like quarter to 1 now. Again, as usual, if you guys in the chat throw us some questions, and we'll be able to have something to bounce off of. I'm tired now, so I need that kind of something to play with, so to speak. That sounds kind of dirty.
Send us
yeah.
your pictures. Send pictures.
You can't.
Privately.
I don't think you can. Yes, I mean cheeky pictures, everyone. Adam, what do you think about the English Civil War? Cromwell should have just fucking got on with it and crowned himself king. To be honest.
You don't like regicide?
Regicide is pretty bad, but at the end of the day, I think when a king loses control of his population like that, it says something. It says he's failed, right? It was the same with the French Revolution. The fact that the monarchy and the aristocracy had simply not fucking done what they were supposed to do in a society, right? That you have that part of society. They exist for a reason. They have their roles. They have their particular jobs that only they can do. They have failed when the population turned against them in such a fashion. And I think it was the same in the English Civil War. The king had really fucked up. The best outcome would have been him saying, "Sorry, everyone, I fucked it up." Even if he believed in the divine right of kings, and that's fair enough. But he should have said, "I misunderstood God," or something had gone wrong somewhere. Because really, Charles wasn't even. He didn't really do much as king. There was very little he actually did. Maybe that inaction he could have said, but he didn't maneuver it properly, and he lost his life ultimately because of that. But yeah, Cromwell should have crowned himself, instead of Lord Protector, he should have crowned himself new king and began a new dynasty, kept the monarchy intact. But he didn't do that, so...
There's this is a free chat, right? You know, we don't have to talk about anything political necessarily.
Do
right?
we like?
I went to the store kind of midway through this chat, and as I was waiting on the street corner, you know, waiting for the cars to pass, and this homeless guy ran through the street and made cars stop, and then looked at me once he got to my end of the intersection and said, "You pussy faggot," and then ran away.
Oh wow.
It was very a New York experience.
What do you think of Survive the Jive, Adam? Well, Tom is like my friend. So, yeah, I like Tom. He's pretty nice. He's based. I've been wanting to do more videos with Tom, more like live streams and that sort of thing. but it just hasn't come to fruition. Tom wants to move down to Devon where I live, I know, but he put it off because of Brexit changing house pricing and that sort of thing. But
What direction?
changing house.
Up.
The
Is he trying to sell something?
referendum. Sorry, the Brexit referendum.
No, but it's raised house prices, or he can't.
No, they
does
went
he
down.
own
House prices went down. So he wanted to renegotiate his deal to see if he can get anywhere for cheaper. This is like Tom's private life, I shouldn't be saying. But yeah, I like Tom. He's a good friend. He's a great guy. You should all subscribe to him.
You there, Ed?
I have no idea.
Ed, you there?
I don't think even Ed knows if he's there, mate.
Well, I'm in.
Asked,
I just don't. Because he said he was really tired, and I don't want to. I'm in his house, and I'm just worried that like his parents would come home or something, and like I haven't met them before, and they'd be like, "Who's this guy?"
I think Ed lives. I think Ed lives by himself.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah.
Here's the problem: when we talk about all this political stuff, we never talk about.
It's fine. It's
Like,
fine.
I'm like my mother's always like, "Oh, you know what? I you know, even my friends from my own town, I only talk pretty much about politics and stuff like this." And so they always ask me like, "Oh, how are they doing in college?" I'm just like, we never even started to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I'm
know,
quite
like-
open with things. The thing is, my family don't really get a lot of the things I talk about. My mother is interested and she wants to know, but it's kind of can't get some things, so that's fair enough. But,
I mean, my family's not interested, but I mean, they just it's interesting, kind of this in this milieu that we almost don't know anything about each other. I mean, to a certain extent.
Well, that's when my family is smaller. It's my mother and my brother and I. My mother's father, my mother's father and mother, so it's kind of close and kind of niche. So we kind of know each other. Octavian asks, do you think the original 13 colonies of America should be reclaimed and all the non-Anglos kicked out?
No, because I'd get kicked out. Where am I supposed to go?
Oh shit.
Are you telling
What do
me
you think about-
I have to
what
go
do you-
back to Ukraine?
Well, you should. I'm of the belief that American citizens should return to their ancestral homelands. That's where they belong.
Well, Ukraine is not really a homeland. It's more like an area of conflict. I mean
But
that
it's still-
genuinely.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. But one should return to one's roots. What do you think about the right-wing club? The right club during World War II. Are you talking about the German Conservative Revolution? Yeah, they were right, basically. And the fact that the Nazis ended up killing some of them, imprisoning some of them, including Othmar Spann, it says a lot. Cromwell let them back in, and we know who they are, or were. But yeah, he did.
So how did you come to be interested in Evola?
Oh mate, this is a fucking long question, and I've answered it many times. I'll fucking answer that on my talk on Tuesday.
Can you also answer the JQ right now?
Well, to answer the first one, just very briefly, I was a very disillusioned teenager, and I had no meaning or structure in life. And by some miraculous measure, I found Evola and traditionalism via the internet, of course, and it provided a tether for order and meaning, and that's why I think I latched upon it so strongly. But Evola was the one I seemed to gravitate to, simply because Evola is the most well-known, I think, and also his work is contextualized in his life as well as on the political level, in the domain of action, which is more accessible, I suppose. I don't feel like I'm totally a Brahmin, like getting on. To answer
Something
the
happened to your
second
sound? Something
What?
happened to your sound?
What do you mean?
Did something happen? I think something happened to your sound.
What do you mean something happened to my sound?
I don't know, you got like really or I don't know, it's fine now. But you were like really tinny.
Well, it's just the quality.
Wait, it just sounded like your mic was broken or something, like because it was breaking.
Yeah,
up.
it's a cool quality. I'll turn my camera off. But yeah, you didn't understand everything I said, right?
Which part? I'm sorry.
About Evola and so on.
What, that you found Evola?
Yeah, yeah. You heard everything I said, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But to answer the Jewish question, speaks for itself.
yeah. It
Amaze
asks
asks,
itself.
what do you think about Survive the Giant? Mate, I've told you, I am friends with Tom. I know him personally. We are good friends. Archie Rains, what do I think of Miguel Serrano? Not my cup of tea. Far too, he misunderstands Hitler and so on. Esoteric Hitlerism is a bit silly, I'll say that much. Hitler was, as Evola would say, a dangerous, possessed kind of man.
I think you just need to get on his level. He was a deity.
Would you condone an attack on Milo and the gays? Where's the point in attacking these people? They're not gonna fucking go away.
Yeah, they don't multiply either.
They don't fucking multiply. They don't actually multiply through like mitosis or anything. So ignore them. That's really all that matters. That's the only real attack you can do on someone in the internet age is just to ignore them. Do a blackout on them. Don't support them. Don't, you know. Otherwise, you're just fucking wasting your breath, wasting your energy. You're not going to achieve anything. Just fucking care about yourself. Don't worry about these external things. They don't matter. Andy Eccentric says, 2 hours of streaming, Senpai has not noticed me yet. Too late. What do you think of Ferdinand Celine? I'm not aware of Ferdinand Celine. True Pillar's going to bed. Good night. Is anime implicitly white?
Actually, I have kind of something to say about that.
I'm not going to say anything. Go on.
Well, I don't know anything about anime, but I do see a lot of people who cannot. Some people, I think, choose kind of that identification with Japanese culture, and even the traditional aspects of it. That I actually don't know if it really emerges in anime. I feel like you had someone on who talked about that actually.
Yeah, James spoke about it a little bit.
But I think people definitely when it's a not fail safe. It's kind of a band-aid for people to pick. I'd rather someone pick kind of Japanese culture over total commercialized hip hop culture. Right. I think.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, it's for the Japanese and it's an expression of Japaneseness. But
they're not a culture to really scoff at or anything. I think they're pretty cool.
Octavian asks, what should be done to Michael Moore? Ignored, not given any attention or any support.
Drowned.
That's an option as well.
That's just my opinion as an American.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using my real name and everything else, so I can't really condone killing people. I'm
not saying kill him. I'm just saying give him a chance to prove himself in the water. And I think he won't be able to hack it.
Like a witch. Witches float if they're made of wood. So, oh dear.
I'm just saying I don't think you would be able to make it in the water.
Yeah, it's unlikely.
So, his free choice to drown.
Yeah. Adam, what level of miscegenation is acceptable? None. You should not race mix. It's really that simple. Like,
not one drop.
I'm not that fucking retarded, as in anyone who isn't totally white is trash. Like, that's retarded.
I know.
But if you are English, you should not have sex with people who are not English. If you are Filipino, you should not have sex with people who are not Filipino. You know, that should just be, and that should just be a life occurrence anyway. Like, so you know,
Should I be proud that I'm 100% Slav?
yeah, you know, you should therefore have children with someone who's Slavic and have raised them in that tradition with that with those customs, with that culture, in that environment, with that particular language. It should be a package. Identity is not a fucking fashion trend. It is not something we should just be,
Lysander, I think Lysander's saying there's nothing wrong with having a little fun with miscegenation.
No, there really is. If you miscegenate, you are well, you should be hated. To be quite honest, Famalam. And
That is when bullying is okay.
It is, yeah. I mean, the higher echelons of like a monarchy, marrying different kingdoms for political reasons, it's a bit more. That's a different set of a set of values there. But you're not gonna have an English king marrying some sort of Somali queen. It's just,
Yeah.
But as a general rule, I don't understand how you could justify it. It just seems so wasteful to willfully choose not to carry it forth with your own culture and your own civilization and what you represent as a being from a particular trajectory. You should honor that, and you should honor your ancestors, and you should respect that, and you should carry it forth. It's just like, if you yourself are mixed race, like this is a situation. I have friends who are in this situation. A situation, I should say, I have friends within, just to correct my tired language. Then you have some degree of choice. Which direction are you pulled in? Is there a religion involved? There has to be a sort of foundation to one's identity and to one's existence. And it has to be racial, it has to be religious, it has to be transcendental, it has to consist of more than just Italian food, you know? It has to be substantive.
There's an argument I had with my English teacher in college, and we were reading this poem by this black poet, and they were talking about New York City and how wonderful it is, and they were saying, "Oh, isn't New York City amazing? You can walk down the street past an Arabic carpet store, and then stroll into a deli and get a bagel, and then walk outside and then go get an Italian ice." And I said, that is the least important part of a culture. Like it's like the that's all like ornamentation. And the teacher corrected me. She goes, "Well, these people are part of the postmodern movement, and you just don't understand it." And I was just like,
yeah.
Totally triggered.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but this is the thing. In the modern world, identity and meaning and value and the differences between things by which you can construe value, these things are wont to be destroyed and erased. One should fight against that, one should rebel against that, one should revolt against that. And part of that does involve understanding oneself and where one comes from, and therefore where one is going, and so on and so forth. So yeah, each individual, it should be an intelligent, reasoned decision. It should not just be a careless kind of, I can just fuck who I like, it doesn't matter. I mean, seriously, think about the children. That's such a cliche thing to say, but do think about the children. Mixed race children, where do they belong? What language do they speak? Which culture are they of? What is their homeland? What civilization are they a part of? What is their destiny? What is their makeup?
They speak the international language, the language of music, Adam. this is a stolen joke, but soon the international language of music will be replaced by Chinese.
Oh dear. But my point
That's
is,
it says that.
and I don't know if you've discussed this already. What is your opinion on the situation in Turkey and how it will affect Europe? In all probable likelihoods, the thing is, I am not for a secular government just because secularism, right? I am ultimately, I believe in monarchy and so on and so forth. I have no problem with an unsecular order, a non-secular order. The problem is though, is that Erdogan and the present Turkish government are a threat to Europe. That is a problem, right? So
I feel like Erdogan, he's not secular, right?
no, he's not. But he has spent
only gonna-
decades removing secular elements from Turkish society, and this is why this coup was, I suppose, quote unquote important.
But he's I mean, that's only just going to drive a difference, a greater difference between Europe and Turkey.
No, it isn't, because Turkey is already Turkey is very close to becoming a fucking member of the European Union. I mean, that's significant, right? That means something.
That'll probably just fix everything for them, right?
Oh, fuck's sake. It's fucking fucking idiocy, absolute retardation, fuck's sake. But the only reason Erdogan is a fucking problem is because Europeans are liberal, secular, and, well, just pussies. Again, this is the whole thing about external threats, Muslims, Jews, whatever. The only reason these entities are problems is because the people upon which they prey and manipulate and so forth are themselves weak and easily led astray. If they are not, then these things aren't a problem.
We're really good at killing monsters in the West if we try. I mean, there's no Nemean lions anymore. There's no lions in Europe anymore, and I think the people of Europe have to do something with that.
But, you know, like I said, the only reason Turkey is a problem is because Europeans are undergoing some real problems themselves. But as for the situation in Turkey, politically, I would support a secular Turkey in so much as it would benefit Europe. Obviously, therefore, however, I'm using too many words. Let me get this straight. Liberalism has to go. Europe has to stay. I do not want Erdogan to threaten liberalism as well as threatening Europe. I want him to threaten liberalism, but I don't want him to threaten Europe. A secular order wouldn't threaten liberalism, but it wouldn't threaten Europe. Erdogan would threaten liberalism, but he would also threaten Europe. So, what do I choose? I suppose I would have to choose secular order.
I think you should just play video games, man. Just play video games all day. Give up.
But
get an HTC Vive. Just get an HTC Vive and play Call of Duty with my buds.
Fucking Call of Duty is shit, man. Fucking casual shit, man. Famalam. But
I kind of. Oh, sorry.
I'm not. No, that's not. We're not talking about video games.
No, not about video games. Well, it is about video games.
No, we're not talking about video games.
It's a good point. Just let me make it.
Okay, well, fucking get on with it then.
I think that I prefer the youth playing like military video games than kind of paused television and stuff like that. I think that's vastly preferable.
I think it's still a poison. Mate, a diluted poison is still poison.
It's called alcohol.
Yeah, well, whatever. But the point stands that kids should be not doing these sorts of things.
I mean, I haven't played video games in like 7 years or 9 years or something like that. So
I've been playing Fallout New Vegas recently, which is probably I play it too much, but it's not something to spread and to encourage. Back to the fucking topic of discussion, however, with Turkey. I would support secularism there only because it's safer for Europe. However, in principle, I have nothing against a non-secular order. My basis of supporting secularism isn't because secularism. It's because geopolitically, I don't want Europe to be fucking flooded with bastarding fucking Muslims.
It's a strategy.
And maybe that would, but then again, I'm not totally sure about that. Maybe I would support Erdogan because he's a threat to liberalism, but it's a difficult thing to juggle. I look forward to
What's the name of that guy? The guy who they're claiming caused the coup, Erdogan, who's claiming caused the coup.
I don't know.
He lives in Pennsylvania,
Right.
very very close to where my parents' lake house is. He
Interesting.
in this right in the same area. So I
Has Adam answered the question about who not to listen to? It's self-evident, mate. Honestly, lads, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I reckon I'm gonna go bed.
Good night.
Alright, good night. And thank you everyone for listening. This has been kind of a sporadic hangout, but these things is how they sometimes go. So thank you for listening and take it easy.